This is a doll that I've had since 2016, and he came with some other kind of Harlequin style dolls. Thing about him, he didn't come with any breeches, so I had to swap out some bloomers for him. He was a light blue, just a really, so he's kind of this color, light blue, but lighter because I dyed this as well. And this is something I did add. I added all the ribbons, and they've all been dyed, and so they have like just little black streaks. Did very little to change the colors, much as you just kind of dirtied them up. But yeah, let me see if I can get let me get up close. See the blue that he was? So I love this color that it turned, this dark navy blue. And the pom-poms and all that are original, and the little collar is original, and the hat is original. And the hat will come off. I took it off. You can see it had been glued on, and I do keep it on. Now I asked my son what he thought. He was over visiting today, actually doing laundry, but you know, visiting. And I asked him what he thought about hat or no hat, and he's like, well, you know, either way is good, but he liked it without the hat because it showed off the markings better that I did. But I said, as long as you kind of keep it towards the back, kind of still shows it off. So it just kind of sits on there. I didn't glue it on there permanently. So one of the things I did with him, he had the worst hands. They were teeny tiny little hands. I couldn't stand them. So I did swap out some new hands. And when I drew his hands, instead of drawing hands, I drew gloves. You can see all the like stitches and all in the, not stitches, but seams of the gloves. And then the little place, I love to do this little area where the gloves, you know, part right there. And I can't really see his neck, but I actually put the flesh tone pastel on his neck to kind of give him a flesh color, like this was makeup and not he wasn't white. And he also has that on his wrist. Let me see a little bit right there. So I did that as well. His pants are like, this is a satin. His pants are type of satin, not the same style, but it worked really, you know, well with this being all faded out. The other thing with him is that he has these cool shoes on. Now, why his feet don't go forward, I don't know. He's kind of twisted. You see how his body goes one way and his legs goes another, just the way he's made. But I did add wire to his hands, his arms, so he can move around. Because while I had to completely take him apart in order to change the hands out. So while I was doing that, I just, you know, made it, other than that, couldn't get him untwisted. And he's glued, his little legs are glued on. And when you start messing with that, you can rip the fabric, and I just hate to do all that. And it was worth it to get rid of the arms, but I didn't feel like I should mess with the legs. I don't have any other like clown dolls that have these, but if you look, maybe you can see them real close, you can kind of see, there it is, a little seam there where you can, in the design, the line in it, where you can make the little flat shoes, but I decided he needed to have on boots. So there, so it'll kind of turn if you pose him that way. But I dig him. He's the same height as my typical clowns. He's probably about 16 inches or so. Let me give him this. I don't know what y'all think, 12. Let's go ahead and call him 16 inches. Typical size of my clowns, but he's thinner. And because he's thinner, his just proportions are different. In fact, his proportions are a little bit more human-like versus doll-like because he is so thin and everything. His head is kind of big for his body. So he didn't have eyes. I mean, they were painted, so I had to paint in the eyes, which is what I prefer to do on my clowns. I purposefully go look for clown sculpts where I can paint the eyes because I'm kind of digging my yellow eyes or my gray eyes. I originally had painted them this color. This kind of this is actually a purple, believe it or not, just a pale purpley gray. I just love it. But I wanted something that would kind of go with this. Like that. So I was going to do his eyes that same color, and I actually put him that color, and then I painted over him with the yellow because I just thought like he needed a little contrast in there. But he's got some really cool eyes. Long eyelashes. I put long eyelashes on the bottom as well. Gave him a really interesting shape to his eyes. He has a very sad face you can't see. So I did this thing where I only did his top lip. I just thought, I don't know, you start painting these and you kind of start coming with ideas, and this is what you pull together. And I immediately went to this with I decided not to do his bottom lip, so that was what's kind of cool. I like him. I mean, I try to match up his stuff because I feel like he needed to be a little color coordinated. I said, I make all my dolls for me first, and I'm kind of digging this guy. He was so ugly before. and had no personality. Of course I have no before pictures because I never think to do it. But I do have a video that I did that's showing the dolls that needed to be worked on. So if you go back and look at that video with all the dolls that are just painted white, he's actually in that group with just the white face. So you can see his sculpt. Only doll I have like this. He is the only Harlequin doll that I have that is a male. See the bone structure is very masculine. It's got a very prominent brow and things like that are very masculine features. So I really love that. But that teeny tiny hands were so goofy. They were like this big. They were so little. And I hated those hands. So I got rid of them. His head was down inside his body, but he had this really nice chest. And I just, oh, can you see it? My commitment to my dolls is so funny, and you can't even see it, but he's actually painted with a collarbone and all that kind of stuff, even though you will never see his neck because it's all sewn up. Yeah, you can't even get to it now. I guess you could if you really dug for it. But I go through the trouble of painting everything, even though I know it's not going to be seen. It's just like part of my thing. That means something to me that they have that finished. So when I rebuilt him, I took his head out of his body because they had just put the cloth around his neck and, you know, like shoved his chest plate inside the body. So I restitched him so that it would sit on top like it's supposed to do. So it's really nice. So it's got this nice firm chest plate right here. So he's a doll. I mean, he is a doll. He's a clown doll. But he's a little creepy and a little sad. And he looks really good with one of my dolls because their proportions are just perfect. And I love them together. So they'll probably hang out together until they sell. Like I said, all my dolls are for me. Now I'm pricing him a little bit lower because I did not have to make his outfit. It was already, you know, put together for me. And all I needed to do was, where most of my dolls have sewn their clothes, I just needed to fix up these pants for him. And I had to gather them up around the legs and around the waist so that they would fit him. So that was pretty much it. And I noticed that this is come unglued. I need to stitch that up. So other than little mending things like that and then designing how I was going to do the neck, I had gathered it up. Like you put a couple of stitches around it, a rosa stitch, and I pulled it tight so it would fit nicely around the neck. And then, you know, I added all the ribbons and stuff. And the spider. And I think his heart's on the back because he was made with love. And I drew his ears in, kind of creepy little ears. Let me see the back of his neck. Maybe we can see some of its color change. It's very subtle, so it goes from right here to his jawline where I've kind of added less flesh and the flesh color on his ears as well. And I just feel like he just needed a little bit more than just be painted white. I had to give him more personality. I love drawing these dolls. This has been a lot of fun for me. Good therapy. I mean, it is some seriously fun stuff to do. Hey, and I encourage you, go buy you some porcelain dolls and repaint the clowns and repaint their faces, or just buy regular ones and make them into clowns. You can't do it wrong. Sometimes it's hard to do symmetrical, but hey, not all clowns are symmetrical. There is that.